Hello and welcome to Women in Retail Talks. I'm Ashley Taradio, Senior Content Strategist at the Women in Retail Leadership Circle, and today I'm joined by Abby Morgan, co-founder and CMO of CUUP, a direct-to-consumer startup focused on providing women with the essential bra. Today we're going to be talking about what makes CUUP different from traditional lingerie brands, how community plays an important role in the business, what retail trends Abby's predicting for 2021, and much more. So Abby, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So I gave a little introduction, but I thought we could start by you telling us a little bit more about CUUP and how CUUP came to be and your inspiration behind it.
Yeah, CUUP is, so we're a direct-to-consumer bra company, really focused on delivering a uncompromising approach to fit, style, and performance. We've been around for just over 2 years now, which feels like a lifetime. And our mission is redefining how women look and feel in their bra. So really kind of asking more from our intimates and this foundational layer of what supports us, and making sure that we really deliver on that from, like I said, kind of an uncompromising approach to 3 pain points that we've really identified in the category. But the inspiration behind CUUP is that we're customers ourselves, and we found that we couldn't actually find bras that fit us in our size, felt stylish, felt like something we'd actually want to wear, and also really felt like they performed. I think we see a lot of innovations in athleisure and different wear, but we haven't really seen those crossover to performance in your bras, which we thought was a great opportunity.
Yeah, so you mentioned, CUUP completely revised their traditional bra sizing system, which is great because normally, bra shopping is not something people enjoy. What else makes CUUP different than other undergarment brands?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that we're focused on with CUUP is performance materials and natural shaping. So a lot of other bra companies seem to push up or act to minimize, whether that's sports bras, or really don't support you. And those are bralettes. And that works for a certain demographic, a certain size. But when you get into bigger sizes, which the majority of American women are, you actually need that support. So we were looking at the bralette trend and seeing there's inclination, a movement towards natural shaping. But how can we get that natural shaping and almost sculpting without fully changing your bra size and with actual support? So that was the intent. That's one of the things that makes us really different. And I think the other thing that makes us really different is these performance materials. So really lightweight, minimal design, focused on stretch, but focused on really having memory to really support you. So that like no trade-offs between aesthetic, fit, and support is what really makes us different. And when you look at a lot of competitors in the industry, we find that they always go for one pain point, whether it's fit, whether it's style and really looking a certain way, or whether it's support and going more into kind of like the sports bra category, but no one was really hitting on all 3. And then I would say the other thing that is a big focus for CUUP that makes us really different is when you look at the industry, you have bras and you have lingerie, and they're defined as bras are more everyday. They're also sometimes in colors or look matronly to the point where you wouldn't even want to be seen in one, but they're everyday, and words associated with them was comfort. They lack the style. And then you have lingerie, which people consider special occasion, but we don't plan our days in those 2 categories, right? So we're asking ourselves, why do women have to compromise between something that is everyday but also can feel sexy, sensual, and special occasions? So that was the design intent that we really went for. And it's something also, I think, as trends change with us as women in fashion, we've gone to more minimal. We like more, a little bit utilitarian, a little bit masculine approach, but still with a femininity. That was something we really focused on too with our bras.
I love that. So let's shift gears a little bit. Something I think is really cool about your brand is how important community is. Can you tell us a little bit about your platform, Body Talk, and how it's intended to empower women?
Yes, thanks for asking about body talk. It's such a passion point for us. So, when we started CUUP, we always talked about how brands can be catalysts for change. You really can be movement building, and that you need to exist more than just your product. Especially as I think as we as women, we become, more distinctive with our tastes. We're really buying something that fits into our identity and um, it shares values with us, brands that support and believe in missions that we do. So when we first started Body Talk, the idea was a body of women in support of a woman's body. And the strategy that we wanted to surround that with was support. So we support our women with our bras, literally, and then with our community figuratively. And so we really thought about how can we have this platform that dives into the most intimate topics that women don't really discuss because it's considered taboo. Fertility, relationships, how social media plays in terms of how we see ourselves, all these mental health, all these different things that we don't really discuss, but being able to have an open forum that's honest, that's not kind of love yourself zeitgeist. It's not, it's raw, it's vulnerable, but then surrounding it with a real strategy of like women supporting women. So that was where Body Talk started, and I think the way we keep it real and authentic is that it doesn't have sales attached to it. It's not about brand partnerships. The goal is, how do we become a thought leader on these topics and stand out? How do we access and profile women who we really believe are leaders and have a really interesting perspective to share? And then how can we see that grow with the conversation and community around it? So that's the intent. And we've got a lot of great things coming for Body Talk, looking at different mediums and formats, and hopefully when we're able to get together again, actually events. So
Yeah, hopefully,
I
hopefully
know.
soon. So, Abby, as a CMO and co-founder, while you're building and investing in the CUP team, what are some skills and traits you're looking at in potential candidates?
This is a great question, by the way, and I feel like people don't ask it enough. I think the one of the biggest skills that I love across the board for candidates is an innate curiosity, to ask questions and to learn. I think um, like when candidates are curious, they dig deeper, they research, their creative thinking, they foster a creative environment around them. They're open to listening to others and want to consume ideas, which I think is another really big skill, is to make sure that you're really open. You're always open to learning. I think being a self-starter is a big skill that we look at CUP. I almost talk about how each woman or on my team is almost like a mini CEO, and they're CEOs of their own department, and I want them to be the biggest advocates for it. I want them to be showing, defining the strategy, presenting the strategy, and presenting the execution that they want to see. Um, I think being open, being curious, being a self-starter are the three main ones. And then the last one is just like really being collaborative. I think especially on creative teams, ideas are the best ideas come from everyone collaborating on them. And I think that that doesn't happen enough. So those would be my traits and skills.
Great. So, I'd love to know, obviously we made it through 2020 and we're into 2021. I'd love to know what retail and fashion trends you're predicting for this year.
I think that we are moving back from a need based, especially for this category for intimate wear. I think the attention and the changing perspective is moving from a need based to an aspiration based, which we're seeing a surge in demand for this category because of that. I think the focus has drifted from durability and comfort to a little bit more fashion. So we're seeing bras being styled with other pieces, almost as accessories or a piece of jewelry, which I think is a really interesting one. I think that we will see a movement in trend from a fashion perspective of really investing in those luxury pieces again. And seldomly, I think it's about pieces to last. But people really loving, whether it's the trench, whether it's the purse, whether it's a pair of earrings. I do think, there's certain luxury categories that people will really invest in. And then in terms of what I think, like what are retail trends, I am a believer that retail will really come back. I think that as soon as we're able to be outside again, we're going to crave experience. And I think there's going to be a really interesting retail market. I just think that I actually think there's going to be innovations in terms of how brands like D2C and brands like CUUP are able to play within the retail landscape. So back in the day, it used to be you sign on for a really long contract, rental agreement, 2 years lease. And with some of the sales in those areas and the actual lease agreement, it was really hard to kind of make that work for smaller brands. So the barrier to entry for retail was very high. I think that's going to change. So we'll see more pop-ups short term. I also think that we will see the different areas of what translates into high street be a little bit more unique. So I think people will travel further and go to more unique destinations for experiences that brands host. Yeah, I think those are a few things.
Yeah, and I love your optimism about the retail industry. Kind of adding on to that question, what do D2C companies do you think need to do in 2021 to stand out?
I think you really have to focus on building that community and that audience and focus on sustainable long-term brand building versus paid ads or the paid environment. So I think the paid environment is incredible to amplify and to find people in different places of the funnel who are ready to convert, maybe if familiar with your brand, or maybe not really, but they're looking for a certain pain point to solve for. But I think the focus on being aspirational, having a real mission that people can align with, having causes that people really care about, and investing in that vision visually from your story, from the community you're building is extremely important. So I think that we can get into kind of the D2C playbook mentality, which we've seen time and time again. But I think it's not good enough to have a really great product. Somebody else will come along and innovate that for you. You also really need to have a culturally relevant brand.
That makes sense. So let's shift gears again and talk a little bit about like professional development. I'd love to know what you've learned about yourself since launching CUUP.
I have learned to trust my own intuition a lot more. I think before, when we're working at other big companies, we're looking at the roadmap that can guide us or the blueprint, and I think that's just also probably getting further into my career and understanding my experiences a bit more. I think I have really learned about how collaboration is key, and I'm constantly working on that to understand and learn from my peers, from my leaders, and also the women on my team. I probably learn more from the people who work for me at CUUP than anybody else. I think that one of my goals for 2021 is I've really lacked in professional development networking, like outside of the company. I've gotten pretty insular, and that's something that I want to make sure that I really focus on connecting with peers and having questions about, what leadership challenges are they facing in 2021? How are they moving past that? What are they doing to inspire their teams? And then I think the other thing I've learned about myself, but also as a company, is culture is so important, and we do not focus on it enough. I mean, at CUUP, we try, and we really focused on culture at the beginning, but you have to work so hard to really make sure that culture, that you're a story doing company, as I call, versus storytelling, and that everyone's really like living your mission and living your brand from the top down.
And so you mentioned the women on your team. We know at Women in Retail, we really value mentorship. Has Mentorship or sponsorship, have either, played a role in your success? And if yes, how so?
So I both have played a huge role. I would say one of my top mentors was a boss I had at Vimeo. Her name was Day Mellencamp. She was the first, probably really highly emotionally intelligent leader I'd had. She's also was one of the first female leaders I'd had in my kind of workspace. And I just to understand the difference with somebody who has that emotional intelligence and applies it to the workspace versus just focused, a little bit more on the bottom line was very, very instructive and super inspirational and definitely helped form my leadership skills for today. She was also very, very strategic but tactical, and I think being able to wear those both hats as a leader is a big focus. So mentorship is huge. It's something I would like to invest more in myself if I could mentor others, but also looking for that mentorship is key at my level right now. And then sponsorship. Yes, we have an incredible group of investors, and every single one brings a very unique perspective and mindset to the company, whether it's brand building, paid, looking at retention and subscription, whether it's more e-commerce driven, they all bring something that is a skill the leadership team, has an opportunity to work on. And that sponsorship and connection with our VC partners is, it's key to our business success.
Well, Abby, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Women in Retail Talks and sharing all your insight.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at womeninretail.com for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.